As a scientist, I'm not often prone to expressions of spirituality, but I would like to take a moment to send our thoughts and prayers to the people in San Francisco, Las Vegas, and Genjira, Japan, the victims this past week. As I watched the 2-hour, 3-minute special news report available in IMAX and IMAX 3D, the devastation was truly shocking, as was the lack of character development and pacing. But it only serves to highlight the importance of today's topic of discussion, and I hope that the information I will provide here can in some way help. Since the 1950s, an ominous threat has loomed over the people of Earth, but I believe by developing a deeper understanding of the facts, we can help to diminish or perhaps avoid altogether the catastrophic impact of this deadly menace. And so to that end, this is Godzilla, History, Biology, and Behavior of Hyper-Evolved Theropod Kaiju. The first encounter with Godzilla occurred in 1954 on Oto Island, a southern Japanese fishing village. It was at this time that the first serious work on the creature was done by Professor Kyohei Yamane, who theorized that the creature was a dinosaur of the Cretaceous era, which had survived in undersea caves until disturbed and mutated by nuclear weapons tests in the Bikini Islands. He named it Gojira after a local Oto Island folk legend of a sea monster, and that name was eventually anglicized to Godzilla, because that's clearly what the Asian people were trying to say in the first place. The creature eventually reached Tokyo, drawn perhaps, as you can see here in these aerial photographs, drawn perhaps by the hordes of Japanese people running around screaming his name. Fortunately, Godzilla was eventually destroyed in Tokyo Bay with the prototype of an experimental weapon, the oxygen destroyer, invented by Daisuke Serizawa, who later destroyed the device, its designs, and himself in the process in order to prevent the weapon from ever being misused. Now, in the years since this initial attack, there have been over 23 encounters with at least 6 different Godzilla creatures, as well as with numerous other Godzilla-class kaiju. Prior to this week's attacks, there had not been a Godzilla sighting since the attempted alien invasion in 2004, which I'm sure you all recall. Some basic characteristics of Godzilla. A fully grown Godzilla can range in height from 50 to 110 meters tall, with the species exhibiting a steady increase in height over the past 6 decades, with a few deviations in the 1990s. It is, of course, difficult to measure Godzilla's exact height, as it tends to slouch. We can approximate its weight using a simple water displacement and scaling calculation at anywhere from 20,000 to a whopping 160,000 tons. Godzilla can also achieve a land speed of at least 122 miles per hour. Their nautical speed is thought to be equal to or even greater than this velocity, given the speed at which Godzilla is able to travel between various land masses. Now, while for many years, and for obvious reasons, it has been difficult to study directly the anatomy of Godzilla, we can morphologically infer certain details. Now, based on Professor Yamane's findings, we know that Godzilla is a dinosaur. We can extrapolate the skeletal structure of the creature by analyzing footage from the 1954 Ishiro Honda documentary. And from this, we can safely say that it is a carnivore, as it has large pointed teeth and forward-facing eyes, providing the stereoscopic vision necessary to catch prey. More specifically, its bipedal nature, large, deep head, short neck, and body clearly illustrate that it is a form of theropod, a group which includes Tyrannosaurus and Allosaurus, and a primitive theropod at that, as it has unusually long arms for the large theropod and 4 fingers and toes. For reasons nobody yet understands, throughout their evolution, theropods experienced a reduction in their number of digits and arm length as well. As you can see, 4, 3, 2, 1. Now, exactly which dinosaur Godzilla mutated from was a topic of some debate. There are some who believed it was the Abelisaur carnotaurus, and others who had speculated that it was Ceratosaurus due to the row of armor plates along its back. However, in the end, Professor Yamane was correct when he postulated that Godzilla was derived from a transitional form, as was confirmed in 1991 upon the discovery of the postliminarily named Godzillasaurus. a specimen of which survived on Lagos Island and shortly thereafter was mutated into a fully grown Godzilla itself. The initial nuclear weapons tests which created Godzilla occurred between 1946 and 1958. So how did these surviving theropods change so rapidly and drastically? The answer lies in the phenomenon of hyperevolution. Hyperevolution is a process of rapid genetic mutation, where an individual's body is changed in a manner paralleling millions of years of natural evolution within a short span of time. Rapid physical changes can occur nearly instantaneously using a technique called molecular sliding, an ability also found in the sea cucumber. As a result, Godzilla can evolve not only from generation to generation, but within their own lifetime as well, gaining speed, strength, size, and even developing more advanced cognitive skills. Here we can see other recent examples of hyperevolution, the last of which shares a striking number of important characteristics with Godzilla. The key similarity, aside from the increased bone, skin, and tissue density and strength, is the massive regenerative abilities that both these creatures have developed. It not only keeps Godzilla from collapsing into a massive puddle of flesh under its own weight, it also augments its already incredibly strong hide, creating a state of near invulnerability. Now, the secret of these abilities, I believe, lies in a mysterious substance in Godzilla's cells called regenerator G1. I've theorized that RG1 is a mutation of traits found in the Deinococcus radiodurans bacterium, one of the most radio-resistant organisms known to man. Not only can it resist 1,000 times more radiation than a human being, it can also survive cold, dehydration, vacuum, and acid. Each cell contains a highly condensed and protected backup copy of its nuclear DNA, allowing it to regenerate even after extensive damage. This, of course, requires an enormous amount of energy, which brings us to how does Godzilla live? Finding enough conventional food to sustain 160,000 tons or more of body mass would be a nearly impossible task. Well, over the years, we have observed that Godzilla is able to absorb and metabolize massive amounts of radiation. And in 1996, during the battle with the Kaiju destroyer, when Godzilla actually experienced full nuclear meltdown, we learned that Godzilla's stomach has mutated for this purpose into a new energy-producing organ, the plasma gland. This nearly inexhaustible source of energy also helps to explain why Godzilla is so large, as the two main factors that determine vertebrate size are the amount of available food and how the creature expends its energy. Not only does this organ produce enough energy for Godzilla's basic metabolic needs, but excess radioactivity can be expelled through the mouth for combat or short-range flight, as you can see. It can be released through the dorsal shunts to create a destructive nuclear pulse, or simply for posturing behavior when encountering other kaiju. Now, obviously, proliferation of these creatures is a concern, so I'd like to quickly touch upon the question of how Godzilla reproduces. In the past, several scientists have mistakenly theorized that Godzilla produces via parthenogenesis, or virgin birth, a method of asexual reproduction found amongst some reptiles. The foremost proponent of this theory was a former colleague, Dr. Nicholas Tatopoulos. Unfortunately, it was later discovered that Dr. Tatopoulos was not studying actual Godzilla, but rather a mutated giant iguana. The simple fact is that to the best of our knowledge, no scientist has to date witnessed a Godzilla mating, gestation, or birth. However, we do know some facts which point towards sexual reproduction. Birds and reptiles, which are closely related to dinosaurs, reproduce sexually. Dinosaurs have been shown to possess medullary bones, a type of bone found in birds used to store excess calcium for egg production. And like birds and reptiles, dinosaurs lay eggs as well as build nests. And since, of course, Godzilla has evolved from a dinosaur, we can safely infer that Godzilla reproduces sexually. Now, since the first appearance of Godzilla, we have seen the evolution of not just its physical form, but its behavioral and social patterns as well. Whereas the first Godzilla was simply a pure force of destruction, later incarnations have learned to interact not only with other kaiju, but also with humans to a degree. This increased social behavior has worked to Earth's advantage on numerous occasions, particularly when being invaded by aliens, as occurred in 1964, 1965, 68, 71, 74, 75, 91, 94, 2000, and of course 2004. This behavioral evolution, of course, begs the question, is Godzilla intelligent? There has been long debate over how to define animal intelligence and cognition. Is intelligence defined by use of language and tools? Is it the ability to problem solve, to adapt and learn? The degree of a creature's mental and behavioral flexibility? Or is it simply a function of structure? Is it the EQ of an animal, the encephalization quotient, the ratio of a brain to body mass, perhaps cortical folding, or even a correlation with the number of nerve cell connections in the brain? I only recite this laundry list of definitions to make this point. It doesn't matter, because whatever your definition of intelligence, Godzilla fulfills it in spades. Language and communication, yes, Godzilla is able to communicate both verbally and non-verbally, not only with its own species, but with other kaiju, and even telepathically with certain psychically sensitive humans, such as Miki Saigusa, a leading member of G-Force and an instructor of an institute for psychic children, similar in many ways to America's own Professor Charles Xavier. Godzilla has also exhibited the ability to adapt to changing situations, even demonstrating an instinctual grasp of nuclear and electrical engineering, as seen here when he uses atomic breath to power a series of electrodes to defeat the kaiju Hedorah. Structurally, Godzilla likely has EQ that equals or even exceeds that of humans, who have an EQ themselves of about 7.4 to 7.8. Even without the benefits of hyperevolution, certain dinosaurs in the Cretaceous era had an EQ of nearly 6. So with the benefits of hyperevolution, we can only imagine that Godzilla has far outstripped this number. And in addition to that, in 1993, scientists at the United Nations Godzilla Countermeasures Center, or UNGUK, discovered a secondary brain in Godzilla's torso designed to control the hind legs and tail, an adaptation of a nerve and glycogen center discovered recently in large sauropods. And even by the most anthropocentric measures of emotional intelligence, Godzilla demonstrates advanced cognition. Godzilla has mourned the loss of a child, sought revenge against past adversaries, laughed and mocked fellow kaiju, and even expressed frustration over difficult or ridiculous situations, as illustrated in the famous Godzilla facepalm. So, over a period of just 60 years, Godzilla intelligence has evolved from a basic animal cunning to a creature now capable of abstract thought, strategic thinking, emotional knowledge, memory, learning, understanding, and self-awareness. So faced with a nearly indestructible, extraordinarily powerful threat possessed of an ever-evolving and growing intelligence, what are we to do? Well, despite the serendipitous occasions where Godzilla has helped mankind, you should under no circumstances expect this to be the norm. So the following are several do's and don'ts to help you avoid and, if necessary, survive an encounter with Godzilla. Number one, don't live in Japan. This is the first and best step you can take towards Godzilla prevention. Japan is the primary stomping grounds for Godzilla and other kaiju, most probably due to its proximity to Monster Island. Also, the Japanese government always invariably attacks Godzilla, which never fails to just make him angrier. On a related note, speaking of Monster Island, we should encourage all governments in the future to stop blowing things up next to Monster Island. It's just a bit of a public service announcement. Number two, do ask Mothra for help. While most kaiju are indifferent towards human beings, the inhabitants of Infant Island, the Shobinjin, have over many generations established a rapport with Mothra. Mothra is the only kaiju who has consistently been able to subdue Godzilla. Number three, don't shoot at Godzilla. You will fail, and again, simply make him angry. There are those that will argue that we simply need to use a bigger gun, but other than the oxygen destroyer, which is now lost to us, no weapon or battleship has ever had any measurable or lasting success against Godzilla. Still, there are others that will point to last year's successes using mecha in combating the extra-dimensional kaiju along the Pacific Rim. I would remind these people that in 2004, Godzilla defeated not one, not two, but over a dozen kaiju in rapid succession. Let me assure you that the minor genetically engineered kaiju emerging in the Pacific theater do not even remotely compare to the destructive might of a single Godzilla-class creature, and that a giant fighting robot would be nothing more than an expensive chew toy for Godzilla. Although giant fighting robots are awesome. But that said, do keep it cool with a weather control machine or freeze ray. Godzilla has proved susceptible to extreme cold, and while like other weapons it will not kill him, it can place him in a state of extended hibernation. This is a temporary fix, however, as he will inevitably be woken up again by a random nuclear explosion or aliens. Speaking of which, don't trade Godzilla to aliens. They may offer the universal cure to all diseases, but they will always end up trying to use Godzilla to destroy us. Aliens cannot be trusted, ever. Number 6, do run in a calm and orderly manner. Don't scream while doing it. Godzilla can hear you. So, in conclusion, just remember that while you may be afraid of Godzilla, Godzilla is not even remotely afraid of you. So while you may feel the instinct to stop and stare at Godzilla or any other charismatic mega kaiju you may encounter, don't. Just get out. I realize that's a lot of information to absorb, so I'd like to leave you with a little song I've put together to help you all remember. Up from the depths, 30 stories high, breathing fire, his head in the sky. Godzilla, Godzilla, Godzilla. People, they be illin' when they're messing with Godzilla. He's a big, mean, green, radioactive monster killer. The bigger he is, the harder you fall. So many people in his posse, I can hardly count them all. He's got a scientist, a soldier, tinker, tailor, spy. He's got 2 fairy bitches just 6 inches high. Sing it. Mothra's a butterfly, fly, fly away. Rodan's a little birdie, he ain't got no nuclear ray. No mechanized terror or worm from outer space is gonna knock my boy Godzilla from his king of monsters place. He's got nuclear breath, radioactive death. He'll knock you out faster than crack cocaine or meth because he's up from the depths. 30 stories high, breathing fire, his head in the sky. From the Cretaceous era he arrived. In some deep sea caves my boy survived. Woken up by the hydrogen bomb, he's like both world wars plus Vietnam. He'll level your cities, he'll demolish your towns. Any monster tries to mash him, he will surely take him down. Tsunami, earthquake, hurricane, typhoon, he's a force of nature, he's completely immune to your guns, tanks, and bombs, and your model jet fighters, to your hack directors and your bad screenwriters. Godzilla's mad sick, he ain't no pregnant chick. What the hell's the matter with you, Matthew Broderick? You know, that movie was over 15 years ago, but sometimes when it's cold, it still hurts right here. Even when he's beaten, you know he's coming back. No oxygen destroyer is gonna change the fact. From Megalon to Gamera, Kumonga and Hedorah, to Ghidorah and Gigan, the king said sayonara. Don't matter what you say, this player's gotta play. Just wait for 90 minutes and my boy will swim away. Back to the dance. Where he came from. Where there is no sun. Ninjas better run. Gotta get me some Godzilla, Godzilla, Godzilla. King Kong is only 50 feet tall, son. No way. Thank you very much.